Hi everyone, thanks to this episode of Nick Egan Times. On this episode, we have a creative powerhouse guest. We have the incredible, multi-talented visual artist, music producer, entrepreneur, and now the visionary behind one of Nashville's most iconic rebirths, The Eighth Rooms, and Jason Hollis. Jason has worked with legends like Pharrell Williams, Justin Timberlake, and has produced groundbreaking shows for Netflix and YouTube, plus helping shape the careers of major brands. Jason now, alongside his wife Erin, has transformed the legendary Douglas Corner into a jaw-dropping venue inspired by the Viper Room, Max's Kansas City, and pure rock and roll art culture. With an unmistakable vibe, this isn't a music venue, it's an amazing experience. This is Jason Hollis and the Eighth Room. Welcome to the multi-talented Jason Hollis, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jason Hollis. I'm coming to you live from Nashville, Tennessee.
The best place.
Welcome to the Eighth Room. Yeah, well,
All right.
it's a good place. You're in a pretty good place right now, Sydney, Australia, which I love.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's jump straight into it. Um, Take us back. Tell us about your career, and I guess how everything's transpired to where you are now.
Oh, wow. How much time do we have? All right, I'll give you the quick background.
Sure.
I came up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I think my first love of music was from children's cartoon shows that I used to watch, from the Muppets and Fraggle Rock, to like Jabberjaws. Like all these early cartoons all had bands in them, and I was just like, I don't know, man. There was something about being in a band on a cartoon show. I thought was probably the coolest thing in the world. I grew up listening to my father's record collections, and just kind of fell in love with music at a very early age. In my middle school years, I began working at a local music store called Ziegler Music in Baton Rouge, and which sold guitars and band instruments, and quickly became kind of inundated in the local and touring music scene. Um, Most importantly, like the guys that I was hanging around with in the music store all played with like greats. So when I was young, middle school, early high school, I was hanging out with like Chuck Berry and Ray Charles and Alan Toussaint and Dr. John and all these great musicians. And then in my latter part of high school, I was really working with these guys, with all the touring bands coming through, really doing like A&R stuff, getting them deals on strings and drum heads and guitar cases and all that stuff. And that just kind of like really propelled me into wanting to take the next step and make records. I wanted to kind of do what I loved, which was listening to music. So the day after I graduated high school, I moved to Los Angeles, California, with no friends and no family, and just set out to kind of, you know, be in the music business. That didn't happen, but along the way, I gained some really great mentors out there, and they started kind of molding me and teaching me the way of the business, without being in the business. So shortly, like 2 years into Los Angeles, Los Angeles is a really big place, and to go out to LA and think that you're going to be in the music business, it's it's a little short-sighted, especially coming from somebody straight out of high school, living at home, because LA is a big place and the music industry is very spread out. So you have like Santa Monica, Burbank, Hollywood, you know, and you just can't get to all these places, and you can't get in. It's very difficult to get into the music business in LA. So I kind of, after 2 years in Los Angeles, I set my sights on Nashville, and I moved here and in like 1995. And at the time, um, in Nashville, there were two streets. There was 16th and 17th Avenue, and those two streets had every major record company. They had every publisher. Like every house was a studio. Every other house was a publishing company or management company or a music law firm. Or these two streets had everything on it. So I just kind of jumped in and started meeting everybody that I could meet on, on those two streets. And that led me to MCA Decca, where I really kind of started my career under the great Tony Brown. It's Tony Brown, Mark Wright, Travis Hill, and Frank Liddell, which are all legends here in Nashville. Those are the guys that really kind of got me into the business and taught me, not everything I know, but taught me a lot. It gave me a lot of tools for my toolbox, And 2001, I went out on my own independent and started making records and really became a risk taker at that point because I learned in my, working at MCA Decca that, I wasn't going to be the guy that was going to work up the ranks. I wanted to be like a Tony Brown who developed and found artists and broke artists. And, he gave me this one great piece of advice one day. It was like, you got to get out, you got to go find something, you got to break it, you got to make it yours, you got to make it happen, and you got to take risks. And he said, you're not going to do that in this job. And so I left and went out independently in 2001, and it's been a journey ever since.
Incredible. It's amazing. All right, tell me about the significant eighth room and the inspiration behind that.
So the eighth room is it's got a short history, but has a very long history. So this building used to be the old Douglas Corner here in Nashville, Tennessee. And the Douglas Corner was around for 35 years. So one of my great mentors, Tony Brown, rushed the stage at Douglas Corner and signed Trisha Yearwood here. Clint Black was signed here. Blake Shelton was signed here. Garth Brooks was signed here. Big and Rich were formed here. All the legends from George Jones to Merle Haggard to Waylon Jennings, everybody's played here. And it went down during COVID, which is about the time I moved from Los Angeles back to Nashville. And, kind of coming up in the music business here, I knew all the stories of the Douglas Corner. I'd been here, in the early 90s. And so I was just, like looking at this building that kind of went down. And, I started kind of walking by it every day and just looking at it. And one day the door was open. I came in, I met the realtors and got to talking to them and, did that a few times and ended up kind of hearing what a group of a hospitality group had in mind for this space. And I just realized that like we can't have that. This is such a legendary room that it needs to remain a music venue. So I went home and talked to my wife and said, "Hey, I think we're gonna open a bar and a music venue," and we did, and it's been a lot of fun, man. We've been able to really kind of carry the torch that the old Douglas Corner had with having like A-list A-list musicians and celebrities play here. Like the first band that we had on the stage was Shinedown. Queen was in here the night before they did their Bridgestone Arena show. It's just been, kind of like an amalgam of interesting creative people coming through here. It's been a lot of fun. And it's really nice to be able to carry on the legend of this historic space.
Yeah, it's fantastic. All right. With a young Jason and someone that's obviously done incredible things that you've done, what advice would you give them?
Oh man. I think there's a couple of things, right? Um, I think the first thing is a piece of advice that I was given when I was young. Like we're talking 17, 18 years old living in Hollywood. A friend of mine, Tony Zetlin, Tony was an ex-music industry guy, came over with the Beatles, worked on the Beatles, worked on Pink Floyd, Journey, um, and he was retired, but he became a mentor of mine. And one of the greatest pieces of advice he ever gave me was, when you're young and you're hungry, you think that you know everything, and or you want to chime in with you know, your story, your bits of information. So one day he looked at me and he said, I'm going to give you the best piece of advice ever. And I was like, okay, what? And he was like, shut the fuck up and listen. He was like, be a sponge. Just don't talk. Just listen. Be around great people and listen. And that was a wonderful piece of advice. I don't think I talked for the next 2 years, to be honest with you. Like I just kind of absorbed everything that was around me. And I think that was one of those pieces of advice that I'll never forget. And oddly enough, I found myself saying that same thing to a young musician, just several weeks ago. He just, he's hungry and he just kept kind of chiming in. I was like, oh man, I said, the roles are reversed. I'm now Tony Zetlin and this is the protege. And but I think on top of that, I think, besides being a sponge and really kind of absorbing everything around you, especially when you're amongst great people that have done, big things, I think that the best thing you can do is listen. I think besides that, man, um, this industry, like anything in entertainment, it's very difficult. I think that most most young people now don't understand paying your dues and what that means. I think that there's a lot of people that have grown up on instant gratification, and it doesn't help with social media because everything is instant.
Yeah.
You're getting that dopamine hit every time you open your Facebook or Instagram or TikTok and look at how many people have commented. But the real work goes into you know building yourself and what you have to do in order to get to a successful level. For me, it was, I worked 10 years of my life for practically free, and you're not talking about just, 4 hours here, 5 hours there. Like we're talking like 20-hour days, 22-hour days, 24-hour days, 36 hours, and I did that always knowing that I was growing, And I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that um, you have to celebrate the wins that you get because you have so many losses and so many defeats and so many no's that you have to celebrate all the little tiny wins that you get, whether that's a door opening and you meet a producer or you meet somebody from a radio station or you meet a promoter or you meet this guy that's connected or you meet a editor of Rolling Stone, whatever it is, you got to celebrate all the little wins um, to keep yourself up because like anything that's high risk, high reward, there's just a lot of suppression, a lot of pushing you down. And on top of that, I think that you always have to have goals. You have to set goals. And I think most people think of a goal as like here's my goal up here. I look at goals as like there's 1,000 little tiny goals in between here and here. So you're constantly hitting little tiny wins all the way up and you're kind of achieving these little micro successes on the way to this goal. Because by the time you get up here, this goal is now down here, and you're setting a new goal up here. And I just look at celebrating wins and setting yourself up for success by setting a lot of like little micro goals along the way of like this big thing that you want to achieve. And the rest is just really up to hard work and you put in the hours and you put in hard work and at some point luck, kind of interacts and then magic happens and you seize that moment.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. What motivates you daily?
Hmm. I think for me, it's always about what's next. You know, I think it's like kind of what we were just talking about. It's within goals. So like for example, like the eighth room was a very big goal for me. You know, there was a whole year of renovation, and I was doing the vast majority of the work in here by myself and with my wife and my daughter, and then you get to these different levels again of these micro goals of like, I can't wait for this one wall to be built. Then the wall's built, and I can't wait for the bar to go in. I can't wait for this to happen. I can't. Then it's like, okay, the building stage is complete. I can't wait for wallpaper to go up. I can't wait for the furniture to move in. I can't wait for opening. I can't wait for this band to play. So I think for me, it's just all about kind of like looking at what's next for me. It's everything is what's next. I mean, I've accomplished this goal now. So for me, it's always about what's the next thing. Um, and then again, setting new goals. I don't believe in boredom. I don't believe in boredom, and I don't believe in burnout. Um, so for me, it's always about finding kind of, the next project.
Marvelous. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Oh man, I don't know. The best compliment. Man, that's a great question. I don't know. I tend to be I don't block things out. I think the best compliment I've ever received is just thank you. You know, when you help somebody and they acknowledge the fact that you've helped them, and they know that they wouldn't have done something if it weren't for you. I think gratitude. I think that's the best thing. I'm sure somebody's said some very nice things about my lovely hair, um,
It
but
is
I've
nice
probably
hair.
blocked a lot of that stuff out. I think, yeah. I think that the greatest compliment though is gratitude and receiving, you know, acknowledgement of appreciation. I think that's probably the greatest thing that anybody could receive, really. Love.
Awesome. Awesome. What are some pinch me moments when you look back at your career that really stand out for you, that when you take a step back and you're like, wow, I can't believe that's happened or transpired?
Hmm. I think it's probably like it's probably like multi-tiered and like a sandwich of things, right? I don't look at one thing in particular and go, oh, this Pharrell project was awesome, or this Justin Timberlake thing was great, or this YouTube thing was fan. I don't look at it like that. I think I kind of look back when I do look back at it, because I try and always look forward. But when I do look back, I look at just the level of work that went into getting to any of those places where you can look at like because like a for example, when I worked with Pharrell, um, you're so in the moment. You're so in the moment of creating what it is that you're creating, and then then you're on to the next thing, and there's not a lot of time to really absorb. Oh, that was cool. It's just you have to be just really in the moment of that time and appreciate what's happening right then and right there. It's not like I selfie or videotape myself of any of those moments and go back and look at it, because like the feeling of being in that space, in that time, in that moment right then, I think I think that's what it's all about. Even back in the day when I was broke and hungry and working my ass off, I look back at that and I was like, that was like probably one of the best times of my life. I had so much fun. Every day was an adventure and like, you know, are you gonna, I wasn't even concerned about am I gonna eat and am I gonna sleep? It was just like absorbing everything and learning what I could learn. And now I kind of, I know what I know and I've gotten good at what I'm good at. And I think those moments still ring true to this day. But I just think it's a whole sandwich of things, just an amalgam of everything. I think one of the great things that I do look back at that I just thoroughly had a blast with was coming to Australia and working with some of my friends out there in bands and getting to go like the legendary Grove Studios with Scott Horscroft and make a record and do some stuff like that. But there's again there's so many of those at this point. It was really being in the moment and being present at those times and acknowledging the fact that I'm here and I'm getting to do what I love to do, you know?
Incredible.
I think that's yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing. Um, what are your hobbies and passions? Obviously, you mentioned you don't want to be bored or you can't be bored. What do you like to do aside from everything that you've done and you're doing in work? What do you like to do in your downtime?
Um, I like to paint. But, that's always been something I've done. I think my whole life is make art, paint. I did an art show last year here. I had like probably 32 pieces. I sold most of everything, but just creating, just being able to make shit happen. You take you like and painting is such a great thing. It's such good therapy because you start with nothing and then you create something, you like it, it's great. If you don't, start over, paint over it. So I think it's good therapy. That's a hobby. You know, I don't know, man. At this point in my life, my daughter's off to college in like 2 weeks. So I think spending time with her has been a great hobby. Um, there's little things like I like to go for walks. I go for walks almost every day. It's therapeutic for me. It's like that's where I'm able to work out creative ideas or um, think of new things that I want to do or phone calls, just little things. I'm pretty boring, man. I like to work and I like to be creative and I like to be around creative people and make magic happen, just make things happen, create something from nothing. But on top of that, I don't have a ton of hobbies.
Okay,
I like
cool.
to work. I think
No,
it's just
cool.
in the DNA.
Where's your favorite place you've ever traveled or you like to travel to?
Well, I love Sydney, Bondi,
Yeah,
freaking beautiful, man. I love Bondi. The people are great. Um, Best coffee I've ever had in my life is in Bondi.
cool.
Melbourne is, another great city. London. I just got back from London not too long ago, and I tell you, man, London is something is about to happen in London. You can feel it. It's in the air. It's like it's there's a revolution about to happen. And I think like these Oasis shows really sparked it off. It's bringing everybody together. There's just a buzz happening. And London has gone through a lot of suppression since COVID. There's certain English flags you can't fly without being arrested any longer. And I think that there's a feeling of like something big is about to happen there. Don't know what it is, but something big's about to happen. And um, that's always good because that sparks new music. It sparks new leaders. It sparks new ideas. But yeah, London is probably way up there for me. I love it.
Great. And if you were 18 again and you could change anything, it could be personally or professionally, what would you change?
If I could go and do it all over again,
Yeah.
is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah. Like if
Man,
you
I
could
wouldn't
change
change
anything, yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change anything. I love my life. This has been such a roller coaster ride of ups and downs and wins and losses. And I don't know, man. I wouldn't change anything. Nothing. Nothing. Because it's really kind of made me the person I am today. And it's built my character. And I wouldn't go back and be a dentist or a I wouldn't change anything. It's nothing. It's just been, it's just been a roller coaster. And I think that when you have a life like that, why would you change anything? I've met everybody that I've wanted to meet so far. I've worked with everybody that I've wanted to work with. I've done things that I never thought I was going to do. So yeah, no, man, I'd come right back as me because, you
Mhm.
know, why mess with perfection, you know?
It's sensational and it's actually really inspiring. Yeah. Jason, thanks for coming on the podcast. I do appreciate it. It's sensational,
Yeah, man.
everything you've achieved and everything you've done. And yeah, I look forward to obviously seeing everything you're going to do in the future.
Thank you. If you're ever in Nashville, drinks are on me. And if ever I'm back in Sydney, drinks are on you.
Yeah, brother. That's it. That's us. I come to America all the time, so I'll definitely come hit you up and see you.
Yeah, please do, man. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on your podcast. It's been great. I thoroughly
You're
enjoyed
welcome.
this.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. Thank you, my friend.